Just so everyone is aware, Chambers is unmuted and we are live on YouTube.
We'll keep rolling live.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right?
Dave. Agendas.
I just had to get this one.
Was there any out there on the?
There was not, and I didn't see Amanda or,
Who's mine?
Not on government ops, so someone can use this.
Amanda?
Hey, Dave. Yeah, sorry. I just realized I did not print any off.
They were very.
All right, I can pass mine around. I have two of them.
I have one. I'm not on the committee, so I'll give mine.
All right. Anybody need to see an agenda? I'll pass it around if you need to. Thanks, Amanda.
Looks like it
Ask
is.
more questions because I don't have it in front of me.
Warehousing. Yeah.
Chris, I think she said it's on.
Nope, it was just.
Yes, it is.
Works for shipping.
It's up to you. The
thing's ready to go. Just waiting, Heidi and,
okay,
Heidi might not know the time. She's sitting back in that room.
okay.
that's where.
Go get her. You can start your meeting.
Yeah, we can,
Go ahead. I'll go get her. I'm just an observer here.
all right.
I'd like to watch your mistakes so I can learn.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm well.
Are you gonna be able to come to our meeting?
Actually, I
I
Oh,
hope you
that's all right. You go ahead. I'll use it.
I mean, here.
We just- we got
So I hope you
spoiled,
can. The last time we get to sit down.
Is it like, hey, let's fix it.
Previously
So
spoiled.
Wednesday, 8 to 4.
Very well. You're coming. They lost track of time.
Just have to keep track of my schedule because
That's why I made it at 4, because I figured you guys.
we wait till after 4.
There's one. Amy, with you?
Uno, dos.
Uno más.
Uno más. No más.
Yeah. Those ones.
What do you call it? That's right.
I did, I just got it as I came in. Well, I'm not a.
The real worker.
No, wow.
Yeah, that's why you said.
When we go there.
Okay.
All right, everybody, call the meeting to order. If you would please stand for the pledge of allegiance. As per the Honorable Mr. Petcher, today is Flag Day. So recognize that as well as our pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. There's everyone is here. So a motion to minutes to approve. There's no agendas. Motion and Bob is the second. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. For Liberty, assuming there was no discussion on that. So we'll jump into department head reports. I'll keep it Disney and say the two gentlemen from the Board of Elections are here. Anything to add other than your report?
No, we have 4 resolutions, except grants, all of which are extensions that we just approved in this last legislative session.
All right, so it looks like if the committee is okay with it, I'd like to address those resolutions right now. So they can, the commissioners can graciously exit if they so choose. 4, 5, 6, and 7. They are to sign contracts and accept workers grants. The shoebox has been around since I was a deputy commissioner at the Board of Election. It's a cornucopia of money and a tier grant. So I would entertain, unless there's someone who would like them separated, I'd entertain a motion for GO 4, 5, 6, and 7 as a bundle.
So moved.
Motion is a second. Any discussions or questions for the commissioners? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Any further questions for the commissioners? Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have Sheila and Amanda. Anything to add? I think just Amanda's on, right? No, Sheila's on
Oh,
too.
man. No,
Nice.
nothing to add. Everybody had questions?
I don't hear any, Sheila, so thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, next is the county attorney's office. We both, well, we
Oh,
have,
Chris, I do have 2 resolutions. You want to do those?
we can do them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. 01 and 2, amending policy. If there's no discussion or, well, how about this? If there's any, unless anyone wants them separated, I'll entertain a motion of 01 and 2 as a bundle at this time.
I'd like them so.
You'd like them separated?
Yes, please.
A motion for one then?
Motion for GO1.
Okay, perfect. Second on 01.
Nightingale, second.
Okay, we have a motion and second on amending the Cayuga County Public Information Policy. Discussion, Ms. Kerr.
Actually, mine's on GO2.
Oh, fair enough. Any discussion on GO1? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Okay, GO2 is amending the Cayuga County Vehicle Policy. A motion for GO2, please.
Move it.
Second?
Second.
Now, I don't want to go out on a limb, but Trish, do you want to?
Yes, I just was wondering if we had the latest copy that I had seen on that vehicle policy, seemed like there were some loose ends or unanswered questions in terms of information that still needed to get in there. And I didn't know, like, for instance, there was a section of 2 or more accidents. Should they possibly be required to take driver safety training? And there were question marks on that section that I was looking at. And then there was a reference to the accident procedure that was attached, but I didn't see an attachment. So I didn't know if I was looking at the most current version or if those are still in the document that we're being asked to approve.
The newest ones were in the Dropbox. So you had the old one was in there and also the new one.
Okay, this was the one Amanda sent out like yesterday, I think. There was markup and stuff like that.
The only thing that was added to the one from yesterday, and I sent it out, is we put in a couple different spots that the sheriff's office was, they didn't have to do some of the stuff because they don't go through motor pool to get their vehicles.
Okay,
So their vehicles get delivered right to them.
so I guess without having seen the latest from
It's in the Dropbox.
from the Dropbox, I appreciate that. Can you just maybe give me an overview of, has anything changed with our accident policy that we need to be aware of? 'Cause I didn't see that attachment on there.
Well, the accident policy procedure is also attached there.
Again, the one I was looking at didn't really have it, so I didn't know if there were any changes that were being proposed to that.
The accident information form's in there. They have to get a police report, tells them who to contact. They're supposed to notify me within 48 hours. If they do have an accident, that's something that is going to be brought up to the department head and the chairperson. And if there's anything that needs to be done at that point, it will be spoken to and also directed to the person that was driving.
Okay, so basically something we had in place already, or,
Anytime we get notification of any accident, the department head is notified. And depending on what the accident was, if a deer runs out in front of somebody, that's a true accident. If somebody's backing into stuff, I guess that could be an accident also. If it happens more than once within a year period, then it's something that needs to be discussed with them.
okay, and where did we land on 2 or more accidents by the same person? I think it was within a year, within 6 months. Are we mandating driver safety training if we have an employee that's getting in repeat accidents? Or how's that being handled?
I don't think we put anything in there for that, Trish.
Yeah, we did. It's number 6. Number 60,
Oh, I didn't go far enough. Hold on, Dave.
number 60.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, any 2 or more accidents result in a mandatory driver safety training initiated by the department head to the clerk of the legislature who will handle process of enrollment for the employee.
Okay.
So NYMER offers those driver safety classes, and that's something they would have to take.
Great. Okay, thanks, Sheila.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Sheila.
All right, further discussion on GO2. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Thanks, Sheila.
You're welcome.
All right, so a little discretion on the part of the chair here. I'm gonna move up the schedule a little bit because switch around the schedule a little bit because I think there may be some discussion on 8, 9, and 10. So I'm gonna save the county attorneys for last. And I'm going to head to Sue Dwyer, County Clerk. You have one resolution, but also, is there any updates? So,
Yeah, the resolution is just to fill somebody who resigned, so senior clerk. And the Records Advisory Committee met and basically we went through the, we're gonna have to update and do a resolution for the county records retention policy. So we all approved the changes made, and then that will come to you next month. And we talked a lot about notifying departments about the DREAMS project and informing and educating them prior to them being in the middle of it. So we talked about an agreement about that. I also met with Shereen about that. So other than that, it's been a really busy month. And also about the records retention update is that New York State Archives is asking all the county clerks to do that in their county, or all their records management officers, most of them are county clerks, because they want to make sure that the digital records count as the record. You don't necessarily need a piece of paper. It's been going on for a while, but I think they want counties to approve something like that. So we'll talk more about that next month, but if you have any questions.
Mr. Purcell?
Too quick. A while back, you were looking to hire an employee. Did that all get finalized as far as, were you able to hire somebody, or there was a promotion or something? I remember.
So are you talking about the historian's office, or are you talking about the county clerks? There's just been one thing after another,
I
so.
think we had it.
I think, was it had to do with the DREAMS project?
Yes, and having somebody to head that up.
So we have different titles for the people that are in records retention now because of, you know, the DREAMS and the digital, the
Right.
whole digital project. So, right, we have a county records administrator now, and then we have records retention specialists, 2 of them. So, yes, they're working. One is new and being trained. And we are also looking for, there's a retirement in 7 days in the county historian's office. And we're gonna be, I think I sent some things out about it. I'm working on trying to think of a title, asking other counties. I already got that feedback from them, but really was not conclusive that people are going one way or the other. So we have to really think about that, and that's why I'm not rushing it, but I would like something to be up for next month to discuss for sure, because we can't really go without it for very long.
All right, and then the DREAMS project, is it? When I say is it 100% complete, it's all set up. Because I get the question, so it's all set up. We're in like the process of transitioning everything.
Well, let me put it this way.
So
So,
I'm just trying to understand.
When we say dreams, Fred is having nightmares.
That's the way to put it. Thank you.
It's just the opposite. So, no, I'm just kidding. There's a lot. It's in stages. So right now, we just got through with our pilot. And now there's some contracts to be signed for our post pilot. So all of that
Okay.
takes time. I hope things move forward, but I know what's going on too with the attorney's office, and I'm very sensitive to that because we have a lot going on too.
Mhm.
We don't want to delay it too much. It's not like we're not scrambling around in the record center. We're doing all that staging on the 4th floor. So things are moving, but we will need those contracts signed. We'd like it to be done sooner than later, but no pressure. Yeah. So, yeah, now it is all drawn out. You know, we're dealing with multiple government entities and then some private businesses. Complicated and big, and we're doing our best. I think everybody's doing their best.
Oh, yeah, I'm not questioning. I just
Yeah.
kind of get a feel for where we're at.
So where we're at is we did the pilot. Quality control is tracking. It's great quality control. We couldn't have asked for that. So the pilot is done, and now the post-pilot, which is the big project, has got to be contract signed, and then we'll get going. But in the meantime, like I said, we're still moving all these things around. And then in the August, for the department head meeting in August, we'll be putting on a presentation for them, for the department head, so they can see what it's gonna look like, ask questions. And then Tom suggested maybe we develop a template where we have them, the department heads fill something in, and then we get it and say, this is what they're asking. This is what we need to provide. So it's gonna be a lot of back and forth because phase 1, which we're in now, is just county clerk records. So we can answer all those questions. Phase 2 has 26 small departments. So we don't want them, you know, to be in the dark. We want to be proactive, and that's what we're working on.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Trish?
Just to follow up on that with the 26 departments and the records retention schedule, I guess, and essentially, and converting to digital records. Is there going to be any look at records that maybe aren't required to retain, but they have historic value to the county for whatever reason?
Which part of the project? So, if you say Erie Canal, if you say Harriet Tubman, if you say William Seward, all of these things right away, that the state will be like, we don't think so. You're not going to get rid of those. We wouldn't want to anyway. So those are things that we're looking through, because some of them are, you know, they could be in a box mixed with other things. We don't want to miss those. So in general, the state doesn't want us to destroy anything that was done before 1910, unless we can prove they're completely useless, that you can't find things that way anymore. There is a bunch of stuff like that. But we do have to tell them, if we do want to destroy something before 1910, we have to say exactly what it is, why we would do it. It's a big, long process. I'm going to be going through for, there's very few things that we'll find like that, but there are a couple things. So the intrinsic, so that is what the quality, the climate controlled room would be. All of those records that cannot be destroyed. And there will also be some things that, let's say CDs, or DVDs, or anything like that, that we might have to save, that we cannot spend time and money on, because there's not a lot of them. So as we move along, it'll be interesting. Like I said, the county clerk's records, which is phase 1, we have the most records. And they're very specific. You know, we've got Supreme Court records, we've got county court records, we've got all the deeds from day 1. I'm sure you've heard about the clean slate, and that does have to do with Supreme Court records. I don't even know what to say about that. I'm just putting that on the side, but it is a very, very big, complicated thing to deal with. And I'm not going to be here after December. Did I mention that about the police?
That's 2 nights in a row. so-
That's right, yeah.
Starting to feel some kind of way.
Any other class? These are great questions.
No further questions for the county clerk? Okay, as Sue mentioned, GO3 is authorization to fill a senior clerk due to a resignation. It's not a create and fill, it's fairly self-explanatory, so I'll entertain a motion at this point.
Move it.
Second, please.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there discussion on GO3? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Thank you, Sue. Next, we're moving, I think it should be Tom, because we jumped around a little bit.
Okay, good evening. So you have my report. I just have one quick update on our network infrastructure project. So very happy to report that all of the network redesign work has been completed at the county office building. I do want to give a shout out to my IT team, especially Jason Porter, our senior network administrator, for all the long hours, he's put in over the last several months. Huge project, and it went very successfully. So very excited to have that off our plate. And as I mentioned previously, all this work that we have completed will seamlessly integrate into any future county office renovation project that we do get into. And our next step in the project is to complete this work at our ancillary buildings, so the health department, mental health, vitality building, et cetera. And that work will pick up in the next couple of weeks and will be completed by August. So I just wanted to communicate that out as well. So if there's any other questions on my report, I'd be happy to answer them.
Mr. Basile?
One's a comment and one's a question, and your voicemail box is full.
Oh.
I'm gonna ask you since I seen you here.
Yep.
And I believe we've gotten information in our emails before. I'm catching up on, as I saved to go back, no B4 or something. Is that ours?
Yes.
And that,
Yep.
that's training?
Yep, that's
Okay.
IT security awareness training. Yep.
Remember, I thought we had it before. Yes.
Yeah, there's information if you have any questions.
Nope, I'll open it.
And you're delinquent.
Well, someone said it was till September or something. So.
Yeah, through September. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for Tom?
Thank you, Tom.
Just a comment. I can't let it go without saying 429 new support tickets, and the average resolution time was 1 hour. That's amazing. Great job. And month after month, it just, for me, validates having you here and having our team here in-house. So I'm sure our staff appreciate that immensely.
You were here 20 years ago.
And we miss them.
All right, so no further questions. All right, so let's circle back to the county attorney's office. I guess I want to start before.
Kevin Schwab. Veterans.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep, he's on.
Here we go. Mr. Schwab, veterans, sorry, I apologize.
Greetings. In addition to Flag Day, it is also the Army birthday. It's easy to remember that way. So I don't think there's any other Army. No, Chairman was an Army veteran as well. So, all right. So my report as submitted, we did Veterans Day events in Auburn and Weedsport. We also, throughout the month, were able to get to some town halls and villages. We took the opportunity of construction on our building to go visit some locations. So that worked out for us pretty well. Currently working on a letter to send out to veterans to inform them of benefits and activities that are coming up upcoming in the months ahead. Other than that, I have nothing further. What are your questions?
Lydia?
Thank you. You did some great stuff or enabled some great stuff in the town of Troop. Appreciate that.
So what she's referring to is the Robert Stryker AMVETS post has gone inactive, and we're working to reactivate that in order to better acknowledge Robert Stryker.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Just want to congratulate you and your team, Kev, on Memorial Day. You did a great job. I know it's your second Memorial Day here, but you did a great job and we really appreciate it. All the veterans appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Further questions or comments for Mr. Swab? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Kevin, this is Heidi. How do you generate that veterans list when you put out letters? Is it, do veterans self-identify with your office or?
No, the veterans tax exemption, the property tax exemption. We use that as the database to contact veterans.
Okay. Thank you.
I think they have to file at the county clerk, can file at the county clerk's office
They
as
do.
well. Or DD 214.
You should if they don't.
The addresses are with real property, so we use that. We mailed out for the Veterans Day event last year. We used it for that, but this is going to be a letter that goes out to over 2,500 veterans in the county, throughout the county. That's going to be going out here in the next month or so.
Further questions, comments? Mr. Basile.
Just a comment in general that this weekend is the Fairhaven Fishing Association Wounded Warriors fishing tournament that's going on, so.
Okay,
We have a representative going up on Friday night to talk to the veterans.
Oh, good, awesome, thank you.
very good. Anything further for Mr. Swab?
Thanks for doing it.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Kev.
All right, so moving back to the county attorney's office, unless I forgot something else.
Don't me.
All right, so I wanted to bring up before we get started. Could you try again? Thanks, Siri. Anyways, last night we broached the subject about, or actually the sheriff broached the subject last night about department heads having some leeway when they're approved to hire, not to have to come back to this body for permission. And I said that we would sort of kick around the subject tonight and see if it was something. I broached the subject again with Mr. Westfall. He said that if it gained some momentum or traction this evening, we could discuss it further in next month's government operations. So have at it. Any feelings for or against? Okay, shut it down early.
No. I just had a question and more of a clarification. I may not have understood where the sheriff was headed. Is he looking to, if there's already permission, say by a resolution to fill a particular spot and for some reason it doesn't work out, does he have to come back if the activity is within that 6-month window? Or is it if the money's in the budget that and a position becomes vacant, that he doesn't have to come back?
I don't want to speak for the sheriff. Well, I gotcha. I don't want to speak for the sheriff, but that was my understanding. I don't know if everybody else.
That was my understanding
So
also.
It was A or B and you said that. I'm sorry, which one was your
The
understanding?
prior, the former rather than the latter.
Because it ran out.
I
Thank you.
think it was actually, and what I heard was it was actually both of those scenarios where if we have a flow chart and we have employees and someone's retiring or someone leaves and they're in a position, they want to be able to fill that position through the process without coming back here to ask us. That was
With a resolution.
with the resolution, that they should be able to do that. Now, if we have a flow chart that we've agreed to on the number, unless we're determining that we're going to start reducing staff and we want to adjust it, that would be the only reason to come back here, for us to have that. The second one was when they have a resolution and it takes a while to fill a position. Maybe in the past, they could fill a position in 6 months or a year. And that second part was the struggle is they do these resolutions, it takes time. Trish has alluded that Tom's done a super job. He can get them out in an hour, but it really does take time. They got to, send it through the whole process again. Why are we doing that? If
Then you lose a candidate.
yeah, you could possibly lose a candidate. I don't know. It just seems like,
And it was mentioned on, that's a budgeted position
yeah,
that they're trying to fill. So
Yeah, because of a retirement or whatever, and it just takes time. So then they got to ask again because the time ran out.
My only concern regarding that is, I would think that if you gave him much more than, I wouldn't want to go through like a budget. So like, I wouldn't want to extend them for more than a year and go through another budget.
No.
So you see what I'm saying? So I guess more than a year or through a budget process would be a concern of mine. Mark?
And I certainly won't speak for the sheriff, but I believe the sheriff was indicating that when he has positions available at the correctional part of the sheriff's office, there's like, I think now there's currently 8 positions, and he's had that problem multiple times this year. He has to write a resolution times to come back to try to hire. They don't fill all the positions, but he can't. He has to write another resolution if he wants to, if 5 out of the 8 that were advertised don't get hired, he has to write another resolution for that, and it's already a budgeted position, and he wants the ability to say, I've got 8 positions, I want to hire 8 people. I got 5 or 3 the first time, and he advertises the job. I believe that's the intent. I certainly don't want to speak for the sheriff.
Yes, sir.
And what the sheriff mentioned last night, we've heard from multiple, the highway superintendent.
Same thing.
has come in and said, if a position runs out, like the mechanic's position, if that runs out, he's got to come back and ask us again. Well, he's still trying to hire this guy. And maybe in the past, like I said, it was easy to find somebody in 6 months or whatever the time period is. But I go back to, if we as the legislature should be looking at the flow chart, the personnel chart, knowing, I think there was probably a concern at one time that maybe in trying to trim a department or make it work more efficient, we didn't want them filling positions. When I say we, the legislature, whoever was there at that time. So they put this policy in place so that they would be notified every time a position's empty. Well, that should be done. If you're going to manage a business, you don't manage it on each time somebody quits.
So I could speak a little bit to the history. So the history wasn't really aimed at micromanaging. It was the idea that if you had a vacancy, you then took stock in what is your long-term planning? Should you be not filling the position at its current state? Maybe you want to increase it to a more supervisory position. Maybe you really feel like you can live without it. I mean, just gave people kind of a signal to pause and say, is this necessary? I do believe in the current climate, specifically with highway and the sheriff with those resolutions. If there's no change in the budget and they don't want to make that change, then I'm okay with, extending it 10 months or whatever. I think that's totally fine. I trust that I don't think they're not gonna raise the salaries, and not tell us, or, I don't think that's ever gonna happen. So I don't think they're gonna, hire 2 and we told them they could hire 1. That won't happen. So I'm not opposed to the way that it was brought to us, but the intent was for people to just take a minute to assess, like, what are your needs? A lot of times when you have a retirement and say, somebody's been in that position for 30 years and they think, oh, I'd really like to make this position something different. And usually was that time that they have these discussions and make those decisions. So I think that's really all
I think in my measly 18 months that I've been in the legislature, there's not one that came up that there was a retirement that they just didn't fulfill again.
No, I mean.
So I don't know if the
somebody
intent was
different.
there.
Do you know what I mean? Like, instead of a senior account clerk. they
And we
want
should be meeting
a
with our,
supervisory person.
we should be meeting with our managers to talk a little bit more about that.
Okay, so we'll go to Ms. Rabbini and then the chair.
And respectfully forcing someone to stop and think is micromanaging. So my question was, why the stopgap? Maybe if somebody puts in front of us a resolution that makes sense, where we don't have to force somebody to stop and think. I think that I talked about this last year and said, why are we doing this? I think as a matter of fact, where is Mrs. Dwyer? We talked about that, right, where she had to come and say, here I am again, trying to fill the same position. So I am 100% behind making this a more efficient, effective process because I'm sick of people telling me that government just does not work fast. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, as a retired department head, I agree 100% with the department heads. We shouldn't have to come back every month for this. There's only two stipulations that I would like to have. It's got to go through the budget year, as you were talking about. The chair and Lynn, who the chair will be, has to sit down and make sure that during the budget, during that department head's budget, that's addressed. And God bless you. And it's got to be funded. It's got to be funded and already in the fund. That's the only two stipulations I've had. This should have been done years and years and years ago.
Okay, so
I just want to clarify.
Yeah.
These were good for 6 months, not every month. Do you know what I mean? Not just.
No, but every month we're.
Every month,
I mean, we're having to
a
do.
different department heads
Let you
coming.
know that if somebody has a position, they had 6 months.
Yeah, and I think
Let's
that's
clarify.
the hiring time. It's been harder to hire people. So 6
Absolutely.
months just is not enough time
so I think there's a consensus to move forward with this.
with something. And
So
try it.
perhaps Mr. Westfall, we can just, you don't need anything, just a directive to pursue this, right? So and I think maybe just going off what Ms. McNabb Coleman said, maybe 10 months in the resolution, so you don't go past the budget process like myself and the chair said. And then we can revisit in what month is this? July? May,
Almost July.
August? The look was like, how about at your earliest possible convenience?
I'll reach out to HR and see what.
I understand.
They have and.
Perhaps just an update next month. You just let us know where you're at.
Yes.
Sounds good. All right. So further questions regarding that? Concerns? Yes?
I was just gonna say a couple of things. First, I love that we're doing this, because I think it's good all around. I do think anybody can reevaluate a position when it becomes vacant at any time, so that's a great time for department heads to be doing that. But it would be nice, I mean, not to have approval per se, but it would be nice to, in the reports that department heads provide, just to know what's going on in their departments. Like, oh, I've got 3 retirements coming up, or we're advertising these positions. Not that we have to micromanage or approve by resolution or anything, but just to have that awareness of what's going on in the operations.
Thank you.
That's a great comment that Trish had, and maybe it's just that monthly update of where they're at with those things, where everybody's report have that in there. So we don't.
Or
have to
maybe
listen-
vacant
Yeah.
positions or something.
Yes, we don't have to listen to a resolution every month about one department. I don't think we go a month without one of those coming up. A retirement or can't hire somebody and that ran out.
All right, so we'll revisit that when necessary.
In July.
In July.
I'll see what I can do by July. Yeah.
All right, so moving on to, well, actually, how about this? We'll just do you have anything regarding the county attorney's office update that you want to do before we get into your resolutions?
Just to tag to what happened at Public Works yesterday. There was a discussion about the Auburn City Court expansion and renovation. Are there any additional questions that I might be able to respond to? And if not, then just by way of update, the Corporation Council and I are working through an agreement. He has submitted responses and I just need to go through those edits and then hopefully we'll have that moving forward quickly.
Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Man. Just want to make sure Mr. Westfall gets everything once. You're good. You ready for questions?
Yes.
All right, yes.
I did find it interesting, and I didn't want to say anything yesterday, but this public forum, that they were surprised when the word interest was mentioned.
I'm not. I mean, that's part of any discussion. We don't have a number at this point.
Right, but they were surprised that interest was.
They being the legislator?
No, the City folks from the city.
Okay,
Like you would think you borrow money from anybody that'd be interested involved.
that's where I come from.
Yeah, okay.
I brought it up. Christina was actually surprised about it,
Okay.
just so you know.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to be completely ignorant here. Why are we not interested in handing this building over to them?
They don't want it. We've tried that a
But
couple.
what if we don't either?
We have a good realtor, we could try to sell it, but
I'm sure
we
we
would
know
then-
plenty.
we would then have to rent space for the courts, family court, Supreme Court. That is the county's responsibility to house that. So if we get rid of the building and those tenants go, we may have to build new construction, which, I don't know whether that's good or bad, but that's the option.
But thank you. Now I have an answer.
And John and Keith would have to move over to Wally's or something.
Is that building on any kind of historical register?
I believe it is, yes. That's one of the hoops we have to work through.
Right, so I was just wondering if there was money there too, though. Or
Parks and maybe the historic, office of
Just-
whatever it
a
is.
thought.
Yeah, my experience is I usually have requirements, they're not funny, but
Okay,
maybe a little money from Office of Court Administration, but not a lot.
couple of tiles.
And a lot of hassle from OGS.
Yes. Okay, just
Okay, and again, if there are questions, please feel free to reach out. Try to get you an answer.
make sure your inbox is clear.
Fred said, don't hesitate to call Chris.
That's right.
All right, so any further questions or comments? Fred, you,
Not from me unless there are other questions.
Mr. Palermo?
No, not at this moment.
Okay, all right, so hearing no further questions regarding the county attorney's report, let's move into the resolutions. We have 3 resolutions, I do believe, 8, 9, and 10. I understand there's some discussion. I want to be a little bit careful about this, so if necessary, we can go into an executive session for the employment of a particular individual.
I'd move that.
Second.
Well, you just sort of gave me
No,
a,
no, that's perfectly fine.
that's, we're, yeah, all right.
All in favor?
What's that?
All in favor?
Yeah, did we get a second? I'm sorry, I'm thinking.
Somewhere over there.
Did you see the wheel
I did.
in there? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, so a brief executive session regarding the employment of a particular individual.
Backup lights don't work.
Looking over there. Oh, I know.
One going, the other
That's
So
the
you should see
difference.
how the hills
Make a motion back out.
Yeah, we did that. So Mark gave the motion to come out. Trish, sorry.
Are we on the
ready
record
for dinner?
to come out of executive session? To come out of executive session?
Yes, motion.
On about a minute ago.
Yeah, so we're good. All right, just making sure. Don't want to avoid the appearance of impropriety. I'll even sit.
At all times.
Yeah, all right, so we have 3 resolutions remaining, 8, 9, and 10. Entertain a motion for one or all.
Joe 8.
Okay, we have a motion on GO8. Can I get a second? Heidi, did you second that?
Yes, Nightingale
All
second.
right, so we have a motion and a second on GO8, which is to fill 1 assistant attorney position in the county attorney's office. Any discussion on GO8? Yes.
I just want to say, I'm not going to vote in favor of any of these last resolutions this evening until I can process some of the information and get more information on salary.
Understood. Trish?
I just had a question. I don't know where Chris is, county attorney. Okay.
It was like not it. It was all like not it.
I like to be hanging my mayor.
That was great. Can you just speak a little bit to the intent here with moving positions from DSS to county attorney's office? In terms of the open positions in DSS and your rationale for keeping them open versus abolishing them while we're creating new positions in your department?
Sure, I'm happy to, I guess I don't want to characterize it as an intent. It's a hope. It's a hope because I've worked under both models. Been an assistant county attorney for Mr. Westfall and did DSS work at that time mixed with county work. I've also been a social services attorney working for the social services commissioner. I do think that the latter is a better model. The people in social services that's all they think about. It's all they do. They get comfortable with social services law. You know, you have recollections of references. Oh yeah, I remember reading that section, this section. You start to mix it with general municipal, with county law, with civil service law, everything else. It's just a better model. Unfortunately, I can't say that whoever your commissioner is at the time, if it's, current commissioner, that they're maybe they don't want to do. I can't say that we've had that discussion or that they're in agreement to take who's been trained in our office under the social services umbrella and take them back. So it's my hope. I don't know if I would say it's an intention in the resolution. That'd be an overreach on my part to include that.
Heidi?
Is there a way to amend the resolution so that rather than hope and intent, there's clarity that it would happen?
I don't think.
No.
I mean, you can amend it as any way you choose. That's up to you guys.
Can't buy in future.
I can't recommend administrative model for another department. That's it's a stretch. And I just would be uncomfortable recommending that to on any department,
Let's make sure that there's, because technically we're supposed to go to everybody first and then come back. Anybody else? No? Okay, you're good.
I would like to propose an amendment to this to abolish the control positions in the DSS department as we're creating 2 new positions in the county attorney's office. And if down the road, something happens where those attorneys can shift back and it makes sense for this county to do so, we can look at that model. But I'm proposing a resolved that social services position control numbers 8091 and 7722 be abolished in passing this resolution. Fred, you could probably word it better than that, but I don't know if there's a second or not, but I'm proposing that amendment.
Is there a second?
I would second that because if what I'm hearing from you is a concern that we will be double staffing, which will increase the tax burden. I would second that.
Just take it a minute. Centering my sheet. Everybody good? Any discussion on the amendment?
Just have another,
Yes,
oh, I'm sorry.
you're good.
It's not on the amendment.
Oh, okay. All in favor of the amendment as proposed?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, I think, can we do it this way? All in favor, raise your hands, please. So we have 3, all opposed. Defeated. All right. So further discussion on, it's getting late, sorry. You're gonna have a good meeting, Bob. GO8. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
We have 3 opposed. I don't know if Sheila needs that or not.
I've written it down.
You got it? Okay.
I got it, Chris. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So GO8 moves on to Ways and Means. GO9, authorizing the county attorney to create and fill 1 assistant county attorney in the county attorney's office. I'll entertain a motion for 9 or preferably a bundle of 9 and 10.
I'd like to move to bundle 9 and 10, please.
I have a motion for 9 and 10. Can I have a second, please? Second. Second by Mr. Patcher. Discussion on 9 and 10, please. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to reiterate that I feel it's fiscally irresponsible to keep 2 positions open when we have 2 other positions that we're filling. Something could happen down the road where it's too easy to miss. And so I'm going to oppose this because I assume if I put forth an amendment, it would go down to abolish. So,
Fair enough. I would just say that it's in response, rebuttal, that it's the duty of this body to provide legislative oversight, and shame on us if we were to miss such a thing and double book. That sound about right? Yes, ma'am.
So in continuing that conversation and reverting to earlier conversation where we're saying we're not going to micromanage our department heads, we are doubling the opportunity to lose track of this if we are going to give our department heads more reign in filling their positions, which is one of the reasons why I supported the initial amendment request.
Okay, further discussion on the bundle. For clarification, it's GO9 and 10. Nobody? All in favor? Opposed? 3, we have 3 in opposition. Sheila, Amanda, I think it was Amanda that responded.
Amanda.
Yep, it's Amanda. Yep, got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. So carried. Any further business to come before government operations in this marathon session?
Move adjournment.
Outstanding. We have a motion. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Everybody's on that one. Nobody's opposed. Have a good night, everybody.
Lenny will start at 7.
Thanks. I get.
That's why we gotta
15
get,
minutes.
we gotta get those back.
Right.
Just so everyone's aware, Chambers is unmuted.
I've just done it.
So much. So
Just-
Coward.
Upside down.
Oh, I'm bringing a bed. Bringing my slippers, night. Oh, days in Maine.
I'm sure.
Oh,
It's gonna be a marathon.
it's gonna be a hot one?
No, it's not gonna be a hot one. It isn't gonna be long.
Oh.
All these attorneys, isn't it?
Yeah.
They not graduating?
So.
Hurts a little.
So that's what it was fax email.
Oh, yeah, I just.
Um,
Yep.
That's where it gets kind of weird now.
All right, Rich, thanks. Everybody, just so everybody knows, Amanda said we're live, just so everybody knows.
See you later.
See you later, Chris.
Chris.
See you, Rich. Oh, you staying? Going?
All right, I'll talk to you later. Thank you, Brittany.
There's no way, but somebody said you hurt your foot?
I jammed it.
I knew it was coming. Thanks to you
I
guys.
shouldn't laugh, I'm sorry. How did you break?
Wow.
Oh, at this point, it hurts so bad. I didn't see it.
We got a card. I don't know. They might be room for two.
Let's just try to ride this
double. Yeah, you can sit on the handle.
I can see that now.
There you go.
I mean, just so you know, Amanda said she's live, whenever you're ready.
Run away.
I know, you're having me opening candy.
Oh, those smell good.
Always the
I probably shouldn't mix it with Mountain Dew, but I'm gonna.
Whenever it's quiet, that's when somebody's gonna open something.
It happens in the classroom too.
Oh, always. Then they get all weird and they try not to make noise with it. Just finish.
We'll stand for the pledge, please. We'll begin the meeting.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Everybody. You not to stay for this one?
No, as much as I love you, I'm going to, no. And the check's in the mail. Bye, everybody.
I'll call you in the morning.
One speakers, for Muldrow. Everyone else is present. I'll entertain a motion over the minutes. May 9th.
I'll move them.
Second for sale.
Motion in the second. All in favor? Those opposed? No one opposes. Carried. Appointments. Now, do we need a motion for that, Dave?
This is just a,
Information.
this is voted on at the main meeting, the full meeting.
All right, I wasn't sure. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Litch, Planning and Economic Development.
Good evening, everybody. You all have my committee report. I just have a couple of highlights to share with you, and I hope not to take up too much of your time. Monday morning, Planner Greg Diebold, who started with the department in April of 2021, let me know that he'd be leaving the position with a planned relocation out of the country. He's got some dual citizenship, and he's going to try to find maybe a different focus in the planning field that has more to do with research, maybe a little bit less to do with dealing directly with town boards and the public. But he's been an excellent member of the team. I've been able to rely on him. I let him know that we really appreciate his service, and I'm sure we all wish him all the best. But his current work, which he's finalized in the town of Troop zoning ordinance. He also worked on their comprehensive plan before that. And he's working on the village of Weedsport zoning ordinance. And right now he's been working with the Village of Union Springs preparing their New York Forward application, which is due in September. All of that work will either be completed or I will reassign senior staff to complete that work. He's doing other things, but those are sort of some of the main ones. And I want to just let you know that we've got a handle on it and we'll be completing it. I'll be forwarding a resolution seeking authorization to fill that vacancy, kind of what you were talking about earlier in Public Works, in July. I probably will see if I could get some advertisements out there, but I just won't be able to put on, like you can go to the civil service website because they can't do that until it's approved. But I'd like to try to get some information out to the planning programs if I can before all the graduating seniors from those programs lose touch with their professors as we get into July and August, et cetera. I hope that you could support me filling that position. It's a budgeted position, and actually between having it empty for part of this year and hopefully filling it this year, he's at step one. I fill it at probation. You'd actually probably save money this year on that position, and next year he would be a step higher, so you probably save money in next year's budget, all things being sort of equal. Speaking of the Village of Weedsport, my written report said that we would hold a tentative meeting on July 11th to review the final draft of the village zoning ordinance. The village has asked for a little bit more time for their board members to look at that, so we're going to reschedule that for August. I'm just letting you know in case anybody was planning on putting that on their calendar. I want to give you a brief update on the Erie Canal Trail and the rewatering plan. Project staff met with the town supervisor of Brutus and the town supervisor of Mentz, Jim Hoteling and Mark Emerson respectively last week, just to provide updates. And they were talking about how, since this is really a combined kind of a town park, not a county park, you know, how they might want to keep the project alive and going forward. Our work on the grant that the county took over from the town of Brutus, Mentz and Port Byron, after Mentz and Port Byron dropped out of it. That project work will be done by the end of this calendar year. That's when it'll be done. So it's like, all right, what's the next step? Brutus supervisor Jim Hoteling requested that the planning department work with the town right now to prepare a 2023 CFA grant from New York State Parks to try to do the 100% engineering work that would help to rewater the canal. So doing the design of a dam that would be required, doing the dredging analysis, and doing all of those things that would be required to add to this grant's work to have sort of a shovel-ready project. I told the town supervisor that we could probably do that, but those grants are due July 29th. So we said if we're going to do that, the town of Brutus would have to be the applicant. And we would have to have some sort of agreement to write the grant. We typically write those CFA grants. We don't charge our towns and villages to write a CFA grant. I'd feel really bad if I charged them and then we didn't get the grant. So we typically do that work. Sometimes it's a month's worth of, you know, pretty intense work. So I usually do that work. And then if we get the grant, then we say, okay, then work with us. And then we'll get a memorandum of agreement to, you know, what it would take for us to administer that grant and so on. So I wanted to let you know that that's kind of in the work. So we'll work with Brutus if we can to write the CFA grant. And if it's awarded, you know, this fall, we'll probably end up coming back to the legislature with a memorandum of agreement of, you know, with Brutus and the county planning to do that. They don't really have the capacity to implement a grant like that. And finally, just an update on the Micron Opportunities Working Group. We had a joint meeting with the Energy Group, with Bob Shea's group, which is sort of a combination of key CAPUSA board members and some other community representatives from different sectors coming together. We went over what we have done on the site selection working group, working with CETA very closely and CETA staff. And we looked at where we can coalesce our efforts and sort of meet goals and objectives of the energy group and goals and objectives of our group. To date, our site selection working group has mapped the travel corridors, which are generally 370, 31, east-west up in the northern part of the county, and the corridor going from Auburn up 34 to Weedsport, where the thruway exit is. And then, everything from there is east to the town of Clay and the White Pines Business Park, where Micron will be located. We've completed a comprehensive infrastructure, land use, and local policy assessment of all areas within the corridor and created a potential matrix that helped our site mapping. We've identified potential suitable parcels in the city of Auburn, working with the city staff outside, and then also parcels outside of the city that would be able to support advanced manufacturing, logistics, and other tier 1, 2, or 3 Micron suppliers. We worked with Michael Miller and his IDA council to develop templates for options on real property that we might be able to deploy once we got some good leads. And CETA has been working very hard. And I don't want to steal your thunder, Michael, at all, but they've been doing inquiry and outreach to property owners on prioritized parcels that we've identified in that corridor. And can't really say who we're talking to. It's kind of confidential negotiations, but we're not getting the door closed on us completely when we're asking people if they're interested at all in some opportunities. I will say, though, it is very, very challenging to find industrial park size parcels that bring together the nexus of infrastructure, broadband, transportation, proximity to workforce, a willing landowner, a site that's not filled with drumlins and wetlands within this corridor. It's not an easy task. It's easy to say we need to go out and do that. When you really get down to it, all those things have to come together. And then that's just the easy part, really. Then you have to find the money and the will to get site control. And then you have to develop the site. So it's a long journey, but we're working very, very hard on it. And that's what I wanted to share with you tonight.
Okay, before we let you go, you have a resolution, correct?
I do. It's a relatively routine resolution. It's an annual resolution when we allow ag parcels, people that have ag parcels to go into the ag district. This just finishes the process by saying, we did the public hearing, we did seeker, there's no environmental issue. It's one parcel, by the way, it's up in Jim's district. 7-acre parcel. And that's all it is. It's just a routine saying we've done it and let's finalize the project.
All right, I'll entertain a motion for PL1.
I'll move it.
Second, Basile.
Second, Seal. Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve, and be sure to wish Greg our best from the committee.
I will.
And sounds like an exciting future is ahead for him. New venture, so thank him for us, please.
Would it be 26 again?
I hope it was something we did.
No, he made it clear it was not the county, it was just his career path.
Those days are gone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, Kelly.
Good evening, everybody. I will try to be brief tonight. Just a few highlights from my report. Definitely been a busy month. One thing that I will say, I've been working very closely with Mr. Westfall and Brittany in terms of a couple of legal matters that we're dealing with. One being lease negotiations with the New York State Department of Labor. They are currently a tenant of mine and their lease is not up until September of 2024. However, in order to get leases going with the Department of Labor. I remember my predecessor said it can take up to a year, 2 years to get the Department of Labor to sign a new lease. In the fact that we are going to be moving, we have started the process and started all the paperwork that has been requested from the Department of Labor and been working on that. It is definitely time consuming and there's a lot involved in the Department of Labor lease. And that's saying, I'm being nice with that. The second thing is, and it's a little bit more pressing of an issue, is that the second tenant that I hold a lease with at the Career Center is Access VR. I'm working closely with Chairman Gould on this situation. Currently, what has happened with Access VR, who has been a tenant with us since 2003, cannot enter into a new contract or agreement with any entity without having a local, or without having the local workforce development area MOU signed. That has been submitted by our local workforce area board director, Amy Buggs, and it's been sitting somewhere in Albany for years. Years.
3 to be exact.
3 years. So needless to say that now that Access VR's lease is up at the end of this month in June, they are not able to sign again with the Career Center. So 2 things, what does that mean for me? That number one, first and foremost, it's a loss of seamless service delivery for the clients that they serve. For our community, they do serve youth and adults with disabilities. So transportation can be an issue for them to travel to their main hub, which is in Syracuse. We have 2 voc rehab counselors that come into our office every, they're there. We have someone there almost every day. Between the 2 of them, they do meet with the kids in school, but they do serve out of our office, and this is a busy time for them, and they're no longer going to be able to come into the Career Center as of the end of the month. So we are working, trying to persuade the Department of Labor to sign the MOU so that we can continue to have them as a tenant. That also does put some constraints on my budget because we will continue to pay their portion until they can sign. So we are hoping to move that along. We have some things in the works, and I'm hoping that we get a signature. I don't hold a lot of hope, being that it's been 3 years, and now I'm looking for a signature within the next 2 weeks.
But at least it was moved.
But it's moved, so we're hoping for that. I am definitely hoping for that. My fear is that if they are not able to re-sign, that they will not move with us, because if they find an alternative, they may not come back to the Career Center. They're not in every Career Center. I will say it is an asset to us to have them. So definitely frustrated with that process, but we're working on that. So I do thank the legal team. I do thank Chairman Gould for helping me with that, because it's definitely been something that is frustrating. Next on in my report that I do want to highlight, I will skip over to participated in a VR headset demonstration. So I did mention at the last committee meeting that we purchased through the Department of Labor, technically purchased 15 VR headsets. I did have the privilege to test one out myself, which was very interesting. And Steve heard the story because he did attend my MICON work group, and I did mention this. I have referenced the VR headsets as more of a video gaming kind of thing to get them inspired to do some career exploration or something that they may have not experienced because of the virtual reality portion of it. It does kind of lead and spark their interest. I participated in the event, and I had one on, and they're very cumbersome in my mind. They're quite heavy. I was happy to try it out because we're going to utilize those for events in our office. I worked with fire extinguishers, and mine did horrible, I will say. I think that kids, if they have experience with video games, their dexterity and their coordination with their hands, probably a lot better than mine. You have to teleport yourself to a location, and then you go ahead and you can build something, you can stock grocery store shelves, you can put out fires, you can do all sorts of things. So I will say I was quite impressed. I had a different idea going in, and it opened my mind to what that can really provide for youth. So I'm excited when we do have those in our office. Probably we'll set up a youth event for some industry exposure with these, also job readiness. So once we have those, I'm excited. I'll invite you all if we do an event, these headsets, and I would encourage everybody to attend. But that's something that's coming up in the near future, hopefully. Micron, of course, we are still working on an asset inventory that I talked about at the last committee meeting. We've kind of been tasked, I am part of the Future Ready Workforce Consortium for Micron, and they tasked all of the counties in the region to start thinking about untapped population and how to look at the worker shortage in terms of, where do we find, we have employers, not just Micron. And then I say this every time, we focus on Micron, but we have to focus on the current workforce. We have employers that are in desperate need of workers, and there's a worker shortage. So how do we find the population that we need, the untapped population? So this last work group that we had, which was on Monday, we talked a little bit about that. And also one of the key factors, I believe, is really not just trying to find untapped population, untapped workforce, but how do we keep people to, how do we entice people to stay here and work? And how do we entice people to move here and work? And in that case, it will help strengthen our system as a whole. So Karen Kuhl came in, she's not here today. I wanted to thank her. She did a presentation for us on tourism and what the strengths are and why Cayuga County is a beautiful place to live and a beautiful place to work and raise your family. And she did a great job. She helped us because in our asset inventory, we took it one step farther. So we have the asset inventory, training programs. What do we have? What are we lacking? What are the gaps? What are the strengths? We also have resources in there, community resources and mental health resources and resources that are key in terms of success in workforce. We have that as part of our inventory. We also have added a tab for tourism. Why do you want to live here? So when we present this to Micron and we present this to Future Ready Consortium, it's really the current state of Cayuga County. And the current state of Cayuga County is really captured in this asset inventory. And so tourism is also a part of that. So that is why she came, she gave a great presentation. I was very pleased with that. Steve Lynch also joined us, so that was great. And I encourage him, he's going to attend future meetings. So thank you, Steve, for coming. That was wonderful. Another item that I want to share is the federal fiscal budget for my program starts in July. We do operate on the federal fiscal year. We received our allocation and I prepared the budget and submitted it for preliminary approval, which it did get approved. We received about $660,000 of new money through the federal government for our budget. Good news is that they did waive our carry-in restrictions. We used to not be able to carry more than 20% of our unused allocation from the year previous. This year, again, luckily, we are able to carry in the full amount. So that really helps our budget significantly to carry in unused funds, along with our new funds. And then, of course, I included the DSS contract in our youth employment contract that we also have as well. So I did prepare that preliminary budget. It was approved today. And then I will adjust it once I have my final carry-in numbers after I see what our spending is through the end of this month. Lastly, I just want to highlight that our summer youth employment program is underway in terms of applications and interviews. We have more applications this year than we have since pre-COVID. So far we have 76 applications for our youth program. My goal is 50 slots. We may have more than 50 kids if that's the case, rather than turn any of the youth away, probably reduce some of the hours where right now we employ them at 30 hours a week at minimum wage for 6 weeks or until funds run out. That is one thing that Cayuga County does is we are allowed to spend the funds through the end of September. Some of the summer youth programs in other counties just do a straight 6-week program and they give the money back. I say, why would we give money back if we can spend it through the end of September? So often kids will return to school because they're high school age, 14 and up, and they'll work after school and we will spend every penny that we possibly can. And typically we do not return funds, which would be my goal for this year. So if we have more students that we can put in, I would feel comfortable saying we would maybe employ them at 25 hours versus 30 to give all youth a shot at earning some wages and being part of our program. So definitely happy with the numbers so far. Kudos to Jim Alberisi. He's done 41 interviews just in the last 3 weeks. And they all basically take place after 3 o'clock in the afternoon because they're in school. So he works really hard at getting the kids in. He doesn't look at the clock, and it's not time for him to go home until he interviews all the kids, and he's done a fabulous job. So I'm happy with my staff on that. And that is all I have for tonight.
Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I listened to your report and I know you mentioned that we had a meeting and talked about all the opportunities that the county is offering. Did they mention anything about the fact that we're probably the number 1 or 2 milk producer in the state? And, that's the majority of the rural business that we do here is farming. I mean, I realize the city is very industrious. We hope to grow that, but we still have, a rural community that's based on farming. Is that ever mentioned?
In terms of the asset inventory?
Yes.
You're referring to? So the asset inventory honestly is focusing a lot on manufacturing and construction and manufacturing because it is focused on the Micron project. Again, because we are constructing our asset inventory to not just focus on Micron. I mean, there's a portion of it that is focusing on Micron. We've been tasked to do that for them and with them. But like I said, we're making it more comprehensive. So we absolutely, we have a section where we talk about sectors and, high demand occupations and strengths. And that is definitely in healthcare, same thing. So, it's a work in progress. Certainly that can be something that can be added because it is a strength. And when you look at the state of the county, that is something that we should be proud of and we should highlight. So yes, absolutely.
I know the rural people of the county are well aware of what the milk produce, opportunities that we have as a milk producer. But I would hope that, your office is very concerned in maintaining that positive image that we have with our farmers.
And we work closely with Dan Welch through Cornell Cooperative Extension. We also share space with them. So, absolutely, we respect that, we promote that, we are aware of that. Absolutely want to be more involved in agriculture. And that is something that I do see as an asset for this county.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I know that Kelly went to the quarterly meeting yesterday in Cortland, right?
It was this morning. Yes.
This morning. How did you make out did Brian Durant go?
Yes, so the meeting went well. Dr. Durant presented he attended the beginning of the meeting, and he did present to the Workforce Development Board about the new Workforce Development Center. So he did a great job. He, talked about the vision of the center, what it means for us, what it means for the community as a whole. They were interested and receptive to what he had to say. So yes, I thank him for attending that meeting and thank you, Dave.
Good, thank you.
Anybody else? Oh, Trish?
Thank you. I'm curious, in terms of promoting job openings, are our own positions listed in the job bank? Are we promoting opportunities right here for Cayuga County? Because we have all these positions that we can't fill. And when you mentioned summer youth, the minimum age for lifeguard is 16. Are any of those 40 youth that are participating in the summer youth program capable of being trained and certified and brought forward as potential candidates for those positions that are open?
So where I would see the challenge with that in terms of lifeguarding would be if we have youth that come into our program and they require training, then number one, they would have to get the training. Right. And then they would have to have that training in the summer program. First of all, it's hard to find the lifeguarding training. Number one, who's going to pay for that?
I think we would.
We would pay for that.
I would pay for it, but actually be more advantageous for youth to do summer lifeguarding. I mean, you wouldn't get the mentorship and things like that potentially.
Right.
But financially, I think Doug said up to 40 hours.
Right.
For a summer job.
So, I mean, we can certainly promote that, and we have in the past, but to put them into our summer youth program, I think they would have to really become certified beforehand and then start the program when the program starts for us in the first week of July. not to say that it couldn't be done, but absolutely, we had this conversation, I think, last year at this time. It is hard to find lifeguards. There's definitely a lifeguard shortage.
Yeah, I was just curious if you saw any opportunity there where you wouldn't have to go through another summer with our beaches closed.
I know.
And then with the other job, with all of our job openings, are they listed with job bank? Are we heavily promoting those opportunities for the people in this community? These are great living wage jobs. They have great benefits.
Yeah, no, we do. And I've met with Diane and I've talked with Shereen about this. Kathleen Cuddy sends me her job openings. We post their job openings. We promote their job openings. When you talk about the job bank, so there's a job bank through the New York State Department of Labor through the one-stop operating system, which is our job bank that is, it advertises jobs throughout the entire state of New York. Where there is a challenge with the civil service jobs is because of the test. So if there's a job that we can post in the job bank where they can be hired, it's not to advertise for a test, but to advertise for the actual job itself. Those jobs can be posted in the job bank, and they are. If we're advertising for a test, we just do that through our TV system, through our Facebook, through our own networking of our employment groups. But that is happening, Trish, for sure.
Okay.
It is happening.
And so he can't fill his motor pool.
And he reaches out to us as well. Okay. Yeah, and also for truck drivers. We funded some truck drivers that he's referred to us. We will pay for their training and then they move on. So there is definitely partnership between the county departments and us for job openings. We used to do, and we can certainly bring this back, but we used to do a civil service workshop. So what is the value in working in civil service? Typically if you can go to private sector and make more money, that tends to be more of a draw than civil service. And we forget why we are civil servants and what the benefits are. And we have a workshop, and we can certainly explore doing that workshop again. We can explore coming here and doing that. We can certainly do those things, but we do promote the jobs within the county and civil service. Absolutely.
Okay, any more for Kelly? Please express to Jim how much we appreciate his outreach.
Yes,
Great, numbers are way up. That's awesome.
they are. It's great.
Be sure to thank him for us.
I will. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Kel.
Thank you.
Mr. Miller.
Evening, everyone. Promise to keep this as brief as possible here. So everyone should have the handout or the materials presented last week here. Our existing number of businesses assisted through May is 38 out of our target of 80 for the year. Number of entrepreneurs we've assisted is 57 with a target of 60 for this year. So very proud of how hard our small business rep has been working here. Our locational breakdown, a little typo here, but for the month of April is met with 13 businesses in the city of Auburn and 1 in each of the following municipalities: Aurelius, Cayuga, Ledyard, Owasco, Senate, and Weedsport. And for legislator Patty Ruffini's request, will continue providing this on a monthly basis. And we're also keeping track of this on a cumulative basis as well here. So
thank you.
Absolutely. Going through some of the other activities we've had over the last month here. I'm very proud to say we've started a new Spark series. So this is really a roundtable that was kicked off over the last month here. The first session we did was discussing diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how businesses can truly impact from this within their own private perspective. It's not just the right thing to do, but it's very good for your bottom line as well. So that was our inaugural one there. Our upcoming event will be the CFA. Our guest speaker is going to be Dan Kolinsky from Empire State Development. That's going to be on June 23rd. And we'll have these, these Spark series coming up over the next several months as well. So please keep an eye out for that, and encourage your area businesses to join as possible. Also in May, myself and my colleague Maureen Reister attended the annual New York Economic Development Conference in Cooperstown. very pleased to say that was a great event, and Central New York is getting a tremendous amount of recognition, not just because of Micron and everything that's been going on there, but also additional developments of what's going on in Cayuga County. The most recent one that came to mind was the Restore New York grant that RDA facility received. There's also, some good press around CMI's planned expansion as well this year. So there's interest in Cayuga County and Central New York. This is just very, very positive, and having a number of developers contact me during and after the conference is they're interested, trying to get their foot in the door of what's going on in Cayuga County. So very, very positive, and pleased to share that with all of you here. We wrapped up the county grant on June 12th and are continuing to review applications, and we'll continue working with the board on what those are there. Part of our outreach as partner within the communities, we've been doing more and more outreach, not just at the local level to our municipalities and everything else, but along with our local partners as well, to really strengthen those relationships so we can better act as that conduit to make sure resources are better connected and those relationships are solid throughout the community here. Number of updates here on the New York Forward Moravia that was awarded. Maureen Reeser met with village officials to discuss the grant that was awarded over the last couple of weeks, and we'll continue working with them on how CETA can best assist them in implementing that grant. Over the next week here, reps from CETA is going to be touring the town of Moravia to make sure our presence is better known throughout the town there and establishing relationships with those businesses. Over the last week, they also took a tour over in the village of Union Springs, both with the existing mayor and the former mayor as well. And we'll also be joining members from Karen Cool's staff on June 20th, part of their familiarization tour, which is going to be covering portions of Weedsport in the Montezuma area as well. So again, really trying to make sure we're getting outside of Auburn and spreading throughout the community here and setting up those solutions as well. I think Mr. Lynch went through in pretty significant detail, in my opinion, on the efforts the site selection committee has done, as well as meeting with Mr. Shea and members of the energy committee as well. The one thing I want to point out here is our part in doing outreach is not possible without Mr. Lynch and his team there. The level of effort they put forth in mapping out those suitable parcels and everything underlying that was no easy task and makes our job incredibly easier. So thank you very much for that there. The last thing I'd like to bring up from some of the activities going on with IDAs is the sewer project is nearing finalization of the contract with the awarded bidder. This has been a long process here, and part of this is because we have to abide by the terms of the EDA grant that we received last year. So hopefully next time I come before you next month, we're actively getting that project started. Fingers crossed. IDA recently met with reps from CMI to learn of their planned expansion project, which is still committed for moving forward this year. It's actually grown what they shared with us last year. So it's a good and exciting development. Other IDA projects, such as those previously mentioned solar projects, they're continuing to be worked, but it's something of a slower pace here and a little frustrating, but it's just the nature of some of these projects here. So I'll pause here. Questions?
Bobby, just one comment, just for, so we have the minutes correct. Like that should be May of 2023. The metric snapshot, right? At your
Yes.
Just so we have that correct. Yes. And I have one other question. Do you have a time frame for the Cayuga Milk plan? Is there any kind of time frame?
Yeah, so we're going to be hosting the IDA meeting next week. That part of their larger expansion here is they had to go through another process of resubmitting their application to the IDA. They've also been working with the town of Aurelius to go through that process as well here. I think the hope is for them to start getting shovels in the ground later this year, which it's aggressive, but knowing this has been on their mind for quite a while here, they're still planning to do that. And one of the things that hinges on that expansion from the IDA perspective is getting this sewer project moving along here. There are a lot of things holding that up, but we're very, very close to getting through just all that front end paperwork and, ground from our end as well.
I'll tell you, that's great to hear because there's some rumors around that the project's dead.
No,
It's great to hear. It's
I can
not.
assure you it's not. Been very pleased to have their new president, Brian Linney, and some of his colleagues join us over the last couple of IDA meetings to give us updates on the project. They're assuring us they are moving forward with it. We know how important the milk plant has been for the community, and with this expansion, how many more jobs they're going to be able to add. So to Mr. Strong's point, the importance of ag in the community, CMI is a big one out there. So,
And it didn't hurt to have Senator Schumer come last month.
I did see
It always helps.
I did see that in the paper. So it was good to see even from Mr. Schumer's
Great.
office, that recognition.
Great job, Mike. Thank you.
It's actually bigger and better, which is great. They actually did
Absolutely is.
some reorganizing of their plan and made it more business friendly.
That's great news.
Yeah,
Great news for the whole county.
we're hoping, we talked about, they may be moving some dirt around fairly soon, light stuff, but I think we talked about the dig starting in September, October.
Yes.
So we're like-
It was,
Hopefully.
that's the hope.
Yeah.
That's the hope as we have it.
Thank you both.
Any questions for Mike? Any comments or? Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Yes, sir. Oh,
Doug?
All right, good evening, everybody. Hopefully, the weather when that dig starts has been as good as it's been lately here with it being dry, a little rain mixed in. So yeah, we've been able to roll right along with construction season, get some practices done. We've been working lately up in Brutus, trying to help them do some FEMA repairs from the blowouts that occurred from storms in 2021. So that's been pretty good. Grant writing season, our Agnell Point grants are due 26th of this month. So we got several projects lined up that we'll be applying, and then one's a reapplication for some funds. Hopefully they get funded. I know Jim's not here, but I know he'd ask. ABC, the boats, we're on the water right now on Cayuga Lake. Not finding a lot of weeds. I know we took a tour of the lake, check out the weeds, the weed beds, and some of the concerns that the fishermen have locally. And we're not finding a lot of weeds yet either, but we do have new operators too. So we're using it as a good opportunity for them to get trained up a little bit before the crazy season of just massive weed growth in the summertime and everybody wanting us in one place at the same time. So they're getting some good field time and seat time in. We're doing some investigations, trying to find some weeds, and that kicks off the season. So we'll see how it goes. Sounds like weeds are a couple weeks behind despite sunlight, nice warm temperatures, so things are a little slower. New boat is, I just talked to a builder yesterday, their supply chain issues. So they're waiting on some cables for some of our foot pedals. They go on the boat, that's how they'll manage whether they're going forward, which pedals to run. So they've ordered them 3 times, they got one in, was the wrong one, sent it back, got another one, wrong one, sent it back. They think they got the correct one coming from the supplier. Fingers crossed. And then they're just waiting on some hydraulic oil to be shipped out on a month now so we can run the new engine. So when that comes, hopefully it'll be by the end of the month, but the other one's working great. Got that on the water, tested it all out, and at least the work we had done to that is able to get us by. And then lastly, we had our tire recycling event over the weekend. Thanks to the planning department helped out. Our Cooperative Extension had staff there, New Corps had volunteers there, and then our staff as well. Collected about 5,000 tires. Seems about a little more than last year, but we'll find out when all the numbers are done. Last year we did about 83 tons worth of tires recycled, and pretty consistent with 2022 as well, or 2021. So it's pretty good. And it was a great day. Got to shower early on, woke us up a little bit, and then it cleared out, and it was great weather. So appreciate everybody that dropped tires off, and similarly, anybody that bought trees, shrubs, and fish from us for our tree sale. That went really well too.
Yeah, but just a comment. I had a few concerned citizens call me over the last month. And I asked Doug to help them out and he did. He followed through and I really appreciate that, Doug. Thank you.
You're welcome. No problem. That's what we're there for.
Hmm.
Then just lastly, there are some field days up at Rodman Lot Farms. Those of you guys that might be familiar with the area, it's where Farm Days was for many, many years, July 13th. It's gonna be about soil health, cover crops, reduced tillage, stuff like that. If anybody wants information, reach out to me. I'll be glad to share it.
One for Doug.
Thanks, Doug.
I heard from Dan Welch from Cornell Corporate Extension. He's driving back from a conference. He hoped to be here. Obviously, he's not, so we'll look forward to his report next time. And there's no updates from tourism. So having said the entire list, the record show that I made up features this long meeting. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Second, carried.